It all started on a full moon day, the second day of our residency. We walked and walked. We danced and took photos. We were like a child. We made a video the next day, another day, and another day. We painted and we made things. We took photographs. We recorded the sound of around us. And we created the sound with the objects. We made the movements, and we collected the objects. And we found a rusty bathtub in the back garden of ACA. A bathtub, 1994, in Rwanda, Rwandan genocide. 8 women hid and stood for 91 days in a 3 by 4 foot small bathroom. They survived. This is our story today.
The toe inscribes an E where we scoop into angle. Our feet like the earth. We bend into rainbow to catch the less rhythmic. Propped on fingertip, a skim, circle with compass, bow my fin. An eagle kicks out her wing. The continuity falters, but we insist on elaboration. Effervescent blocks of bone hold language in sets. We leap and hunt and swing our nets, but such sculptures collapse like metaphors. Washed along the flats, numbers and their sediments tumble into the fjord. Here in the river, between times and their places, this now of the sky is the gerund of water, Does the poem know such places? I speak of the earth. My claims go up in smoky spirals, like a hawk on a ridge, the pressure that there is no hawk. A sun built by forever. An embrace is a molecule. Touch what you can, it will sing the surge is time blistering into strings. Otherwise there's nothing but meal times and one lonely laundry. My quarters spill into small pools on the stove of the pavement. Notice how the words articulate signs like gesticulating limbs. Notice how noticing overlaps rhythm with a clearing, like a mouth opening in the flow of space. When the body takes us to the edge of thought. I stop and ask my poem, can you see in the dark? Poem says nothing, but carries me like a child towards morning. The body says nothing about the morning, carries the night towards the poem.
I'm Stacy. I'm here with Joy Harjo's gathering, and I am going to read two of the poems I wrote while here. This is called Mirror. Let me just say the hard season was a fragment. I wanted to become more of whatever became of me. Seeds too terribly small to root wouldn't. It felt wrong to ask. This, more than failing, more than questions, the crows outside ate and ate. I wanted a house. It was worse. Uttering a word into a morning when it's only sky outside. I wouldn't have wished a cold light on anyone, but I have small dreams. The doors, what can be said? Some of them locked, others warped with age, with rain. It isn't an important detail. Here's the thick of it. I didn't want to talk about your dime, and don't even now knowing you and I are selfish. Who I am now is nobody you would recognize, and I am grateful about that. You can This is Say Ghost. Say what it is or wasn't some winter, it hasn't occurred. It could be a trouble. As ever, the S's, my S's, slip, shore, foot, shore, shoe, dead shoe, soft. I wonder how to spell things or unkeep things, what to name an ice that isn't in air, an attic, who would want to? It's unnerving. I've had this isn't invention. A strange number of windows break over me, across, arms, through. This isn't my telling, say.
Okay, this is my performance piece. I'm going to dance with the microphone. So, anyway, I'm Joy Harjo, and I'm happy to be here. I was here of associate artists, Liew, Christina, Philana, Grace, Lori, Stacy, Stuart, Yvette, joined by master artists whom I met here at this place. I think it was 1996, and we've collaborated since then, and here we all are. So most of you will probably come back. This place brings you back. It's a wonderful place, and what I love seeing going on here is you're seeing the collaborations, and that's exciting. So I want to read. So anyway, I'm happy to be here, and I was given this gift today from my associate artists, and it's what's called a found poem, meaning they put together in a poetic form things I said in class. I don't remember saying all these things. But I thought I would read it, and I want to thank them for these last 3 weeks, and all of you, the musicians. Of course, I'm a musician too, so I always like to hang out there, and the visual artists and the staff, and all the good food. Food's been great, and everyone, and all the supporters. Atlantic Center for the Arts really has a great circle of supporters who don't seem to just support with funding, but also with their presence and energy, and that's nice to see. In Conversation with Joy, a found poem. When you walk into a room, bless that room. Poems are pockets of energy. What happens when you take a poem apart? Disperse feeling. Phrasing is deliberate. There are different levels of hearing. When you read silently to yourself, read out loud to yourself, read to a person who loves you, read to a person whose opinion you value, read to an audience, you learn something different from all of them. Back it with belief and muscle. Emotional shiver or sliver. If anything moves, you need to know why. Judgment will twist a story. Pull up a thesaurus and end at an impossible place. Does the title lead you astray? Try moving while reading. Find something you don't know and let your poem teach you. Make the stage your heart. Maybe longing is at the root of every poem. You grow spiritual muscle when you're terrified. Dreams have to move towards something in a poem. We can only express ourselves in a moment. What is the psychological effect of an S? We can only express ourselves in a moment. People need to be placed in a story. Why? Why this? Work down in a poem. Do you want to throw the phrase at someone, or do you want to welcome the sun with it? The dark is my stepfather. The dark is his sponge. Abstraction has to be a doorway, not a destination. What is your poetic field? Long-legged poems. Consider movement versus moving. Start with a word. What word would you choose? What does the word mean? How does it sound? Look, add a word, then another, then make a sentence. What do you want to do with the sentence? Throw it, hide it, hold it, present it? Be careful of judgment in a poem. Let people reveal themselves. Embed the why. Consider the Minotaur, part bull, part man. Who is his mother? Cut up every line and throw them in the air. See where they land. Where do they want to sit? Make what's impossible possible. Wouldn't it be nice if we could think our way to an orgasm? Yeah, this is adult content. Do you absolutely need but, B-U-T? It's like riding a different horse. If it's too big or too abstract to steal it, find a small window in. Don't cut off the body from the spirit. Don't take yourself so seriously. Take dance breaks. Don't find shelter in language. The story was given to you to tell for a reason. It's not just about you. The whole earth is a living room. How does the journey unfold? Look for the light in the dark when you write or why do it. Something larger emerges, always. Say thank you. Say thank you.
Hi, I'm Philana. I am going to read one piece that I wrote and revised here. It is more prose than poem, and it's untitled. Sometimes I think my mother, father, and I are operating on a don't ask, don't tell policy. Only there is nothing to tell. Besides, we have never spoken of anything beyond grades, beyond work, beyond basic need. Not even in the letter they were meant to write for my senior year of Catholic school class retreat. Scattered through the pines, mascara streaking their rouged cheeks, my classmates read about their parents' pride and joy in their beauty and chastity. I swallowed the knot in my throat that insisted on forming because my father's words were only about how good my grades were, and my mother opted out of being his partner. Years later, my sister told me she received something similar, that it may as well have been addressed, "Dear blank," and said, "You are my daughter. I am your father." It is no wonder that I lie. Fine. When he asks how I am doing, he inquires about how my car is running and why I'm not working, by which he means why I keep failing, even in the language of this telling, to live up to all that was promised by my name brand degree. In her call, my mother says, "You heard about," and then relays the latest headlines from the 10 p.m. news. The man shot to death, the man choked to death, the woman shot to death by the police. I listen silently. There is nothing to tell. I am not so tired of feeling as blank as my father's letter that I broke my own rule last week and met a white woman for coffee. She did not tell me about her friend, African American, who's in jail because his girlfriend called the police and said, "There's a black man in my house." My thoughts did not sprint into a future in which this woman or some other who looks like her decides to do the same to me. She does not have bones so fragile she could break when on command if her tears and my skin aren't all the evidence she needs. I did not wonder if my mother and my father's seeming disinterest in my spirit, beyond saving it from sin with baptism, was and is a violence as cruel as any this woman could do to my body. I have not learned not to tell so well that my body does not know it's cut until it's been asked to bleed. Thank you.
Grace. I'm a poet here, sitting with Joy Harjo, and I'm going to read from my new book. Also, if Thanks, Nick. Feel free to, snap or tap your feet if something resonates. We don't have to be super quiet. I'm used to reading in loud bars. This one is the closing poem of my new book. It's called The Use of Lyricism, and it's a little discussion about the relationship between creators of art and consumers of art, and it's dedicated to all artists. May we all live forever. This morning, the dim skies are halting the passage of time, an error in the weather. I am in two places, torn between the clouds outside and some photos of my screen, James Baldwin's former house in the south of France. The first thing the developers tore down was his writing studio to make way for luxury villas they will name the Garden of Arts, bidding up to $30 million. Only the garden will not be Baldwin's garden, will not have the round table at which he took his reading breaks. 3 years before his death, he admitted, "I certainly have not told my story yet." And the silence drums with hope, waiting to sound out in the many more decades he thought were to come. "It's hard for me to recognize me," he said. "The way the world treats you is unbearable." The Garden of Arts would carry luminous myths of Baldwin the artist, stripped of any locatable color or weight. Popular psychology keeps pumping up optimism via anecdotal studies. See how art can save lives even if it kills its maker. Baldwin wrote of someone questioning Miles Davis giving money to Billie Holiday. Why did he do it, knowing she'd just spent it all on heroin? And baby, Davis only said, have you ever been sick? And that answer stretched into the most buoyant footpath I'd ever set my feet on, never mind where it led or came from. I don't think it's as simple as temptation that pulls us out every time the street ahead turns a dark corner. You could master your destiny every waking hour, and the bell curve will still get you at night. And that's how Thatcher was dead wrong to say there is no such thing as society and people must look after themselves first. This biological essentialist argument for selfishness flew out the window the moment the first human carved a piece of dead wood into the likeness of the animal she was supposed to hunt. And she did it neither to attract a mate nor to generate food, just to create representations of reality. Every time I walk my dog toward the Mississippi levee, I have to pass a shiny plaque that reads, "Freedom isn't free." And who knew violence struggled to believe in its own surety and sought for comfort too? The theater of imperialism is always weeping over its self-inflicted wound while I stroll away my days trying to be everyone's best American girl. Even the most compelling means of escape winds up being just a metaphor. After the house is dismantled and the invasive weeds rooted out, were you supposed to transcend language and never worry about falling in love with your aggressor? Sometimes on these long walks, I try to walk with light steps for fear of putting too much bodily pressure on this earth, because what would I do with anything more? Holiday had 70 cents to her name at her deathbed, her liver rock hard and bleeding out at 44, a fact unconcerned but completely entwined with what the world had done to her. And without greatness, she'd written, "Don't explain. Right or wrong don't matter." And I imagine her voice rising up round and fat and pomegranate sweet, bellowing toward the clouds up where I cannot see. And today's heaviness is already thinning out, ready to fall again as rain. Thank you.
Hello. I'm a musician. I'm standing before you without an instrument. I just want to say this has been a wonderful experience being here, working with the artists that have chosen to come study with me, to have come from long distance, really long distance, Germany and Spain, as Andreas, Jan, and Travis has come and made headway with lots of things, and even though he's dealing with lots of issues to get here and to do things, he's made lots of progress, and his determination, humor, has kept us going. Bill and Carla, it's been great working with them. I've known them for almost a year now, I guess. Phyllis, who's been part of who introduced me to working with kids with autism in Cleveland. Chris and Kevin, it's been wonderful meeting you guys, and Liew, you got to mention Liew, who's now part of the musician group, has come and jam with us every night. That's been wonderful. And the poets have come and Joy, I've worked with Joy Harjo for many years, and she's come in and read and played saxophone and flute. It's been an absolutely wonderful experience. And with my group, watching everybody bond, watching one person help another person, and because they're all at different levels of recording and guitar playing and just being a musician, but they're all wonderful at being human. So it's been really wonderful to watch that, to be a part of the process. And tonight we jam, just like we do every night. So after this, if you'd like to come and listen to some of the songs we've been working on, Travis is going to be working the small studio where he can play different pieces of music that we've been working on. And then inside the big studio, you're more than welcome to get some candy, because it's Halloween. and we're going to jam. If some of you are musicians and you want to jam, let me know, and we'll try and get you in there. If there's anyone that like to read, that's part of the poetry or Sook Jin's group, or if anybody in the audience feels like you would like to share something, let me know. We've done our best to open our door for those who would like to be there. So, thank you.
This is my box. My mucus box. Very special mucus box. I get it when I forced to flee my country. When I come, I want to take my mucisians with me, my friends, but they are not allowed to come into country. So I had a very nice man from your Silicon Valley take them and shrink them down. And he put them in box for me. I bring them to country, and unfortunately, as often happens, I have to lose my young man, and I cannot get my mucisians back to sites. But we had a nice instrument maker who made, bassinet and various percussion instruments, things like that, a piano. And so they will be playing for me tonight. I just want to check in with them first. Hello, my friends. How are you? Schwelko, you're looking very nice tonight. Is that chocolate? Yes, please. Very small but deep flavor. Thank you. Okay, just a minute. You made it to go. No, did you now? Yeah, eat. So, tonight we will be singing a song from my new musical adaptation of a very famous musical, My Fair Lady. In our version, we call it, we cannot get the rights. So we have to do we have to fiddle with it. And it is called My Fair Laddie. No, My Fair Lassie, I'm sorry. It's about rather rough Scottish lad who becomes quite delicious Scottish lassie. And tonight, I would like to do for you a song. It comes very late in the musical. But it's a disturbing song. It's the one with the boy who walks up and down the street. You remember? And it's a very weird song. Have you ever listened to lyrics of this song? Well, I have. So I've taken care of it. I have fixed it. So, well, we'll get started. All right, boys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit it. I have often stared through your blinds at night. When the light is nice and low, good God, you are a sight. It is innocent, bent but not too far. I am the creep in your yard. In your underwear, you just make me swoon. When you take them off, I look away and hum this tune. Tighty whitey's gold, what I most adore. Seeing you in your briefs, nothing more. Oh yes, that shimmering fabric, I can touch you just with my eyes. That soft, glimmering fabric, how it expands, contracts when you flex your thigh. I can stand and stare, deep emotion there, and no word will ever stir me from your derriere. I so hate it now. You've got curtains now. Please be kind to the creep in your yard. Confronted me just outside your door. When I told you I was sorry, you asked me what for. When I said I'd spy, oh, but how I lied. I said someone, not me, peeked inside. I did not confess, not completely then. Feeling fresh distress at what I'd seen, remember when you put on that bra, that was all I saw. So much more than some creep you can't see. Oh no! I've got an advantage. Could it be perhaps that I'm queer? God no, it's only a fetish, like playing dead and being spat upon with beer. I did not say that. I prefer white wine. God, I'm so confused. I simply used too many lines. I'm a creep, it's true. I would live for you. Let me be one more creep you forgive. Could you move just a little to the left? Yes. Yes. Okay, Mitch, you can kiss the lights, please.
Ancestors. And I'm Yvette on Shuyi. So these are my revisions. I'm a part of Joy Harjo's poetry workshop, so I'm still in process. But what I'm reading for you tonight is actually something that Kevin said, hey, Yvette, I love that poem you read earlier as a part of your introduction. And since it is Halloween, right, we have a little special treat. This is my poem from a chapbook I wrote a year ago that's called Dear Edgar Allan Poe.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
Dear Edgar, Vincent Price is your face to me. On Saturday mornings, I sit in a dark paneled basement on evergreen tile floors, laying on what Ma calls a pallet, an old country word for a thick stack of raggedy comforters as a makeshift bed.
"'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more.
Me and my sisters sit wrapped around a big silver bowl with Jiffy stovetop popcorn and a jelly glass of grape Kool-Aid. We watch for the latest horror show on DC's local Channel 5.
And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. before.
Black and white reruns feature Abbott and Costello, our hero buffoons, in suspenseful and comical spins on Frankenstein, Dracula, and the werewolf.
Ah, distinctly I remember. It was in bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor.
But most chiseled in my mind is your melodic poetry, dear Edgar, as it falls from the lips of Vincent Price. His tall, menacing glare, his face contorts, a ghastly leer, just as you describe from the pages of your words. A story of a large black bird, a tapping at the window, a rustling from the ivy that climbs the lattice leaning next to the house.
Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more.
And with that same stroke of a pen, you, as Vincent Price, convince us it's our imagination, that our mind is acting silly from the late night sip of red wine before bed.
Quoth the raven, nevermore.
But we, like that poor soul in the flick, hear the screeching and the creepy talk we believe spoken by that bird at the open window. Our skin crawls because we don't know if that fowl with fiery eyes is a prophet, a bird, or the devil. This is what you ask in 3 stanzas, so we wonder too.
Quoth the raven,
nevermore!
Oh dear Edgar, our breath quickens at each line, our eyes wide open. We keep reading, we keep watching for what Vincent Price will do next.
Shall be lifted.
Nevermore! Nevermore! Nevermore!
Each panel of that poem we watch as a movie while you show us, Edgar. You show us just how easy we create our own madness. Out of a night sound, bent shadows, beast at rest.
Nevermore! Nevermore! Nevermore!
My name's Lori. I'm one of the poets here that has the honor of working with Joy Harjo. And I'm just reading a small poem that I wrote. It's the scariest subject I could come up with for Halloween. It's teenage children. Okay. Be careful, and other things you say to your teenage sons. You slid them out of the space beneath your heart, and the person you used to be followed them out into the cold. You've limped after them ever since, but the grass grew to your knees and your heels got stuck in the soil. You track all over the floor of their childhoods. You can't get clean no matter how many times you click your heels together. Home is where they are, and they are everywhere and nowhere now. Tonight the water boils on the stove, and all you can do is watch the steam rise. There are 190 calories in a strawberry Pop-Tart. But there are too many ways to die to count. You checked off electrical outlets after they turned 5. Laura's friend's kid jumped in the same lake your son fishes in, and he died last summer when an amoeba swam up his nose and ate his brain. Somehow that mama is accidentally still alive. The moon swallowed the sun, but here we are, slipping a quarter into a shopping cart at Aldi. Your first son learns to drive a car, then the second, and finally, and possibly, the third, and you say, be careful. And you say, condoms don't always work. And you say, where does Zane's dad store his guns? And you say, drunk people can't give consent. And you say, Jesus Christ, you don't use kerosene to start a fire. And you say, Emily died the day before Thanksgiving. And you say, fentanyl. And you say, she thought she was just buying weed. And you say, drugs can eat your brain. And you say, are you listening to me? Are you? And you say, you need a life jacket. And you say, whose boat is that again? And you say, when you're in Colombia, pretend you're Canadian. And you say, why are you texting me if you're driving? And you say Uber, and you say Parkland, and you say Pulse. And you say, what? Texas now? Jesus, how many? And you say, be careful, God, please, be careful.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? My name's Christopher Ryan. I'm a singer-songwriter from Denver, Colorado. And one of the things I love about being a songwriter is I not only get to be a musician, but also a storyteller. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about this song. Now, I've been a semi-professional musician for a lot of years. I started playing music when I was in 3rd grade. Somewhere around 19, I started getting paid for that. But always in my head, I'd had sort of this belief that I couldn't do this for a living. And some of the reasons for that were really legitimate, like how am I going to pay for a mortgage, what about health insurance? Some were based on fear. Fear of rejection. Fear that I didn't know enough contacts in the music industry or that my songs weren't good enough. About 5 years ago, I had the privilege of traveling through Europe with my wife. We were in this tiny little town in Italy. We stopped and we watched the street musician. And as we're watching him, my wife kind of elbows me and points over about 20 feet away. And there's a street painter. And I look and I'm like, yeah, I think that's cool. This musician. And she's like, no, look a little closer. And I turn around and I look and I realize the street painter has absolutely no arms below the elbows. He's holding a paintbrush in his mouth and he's painting these spectacular canvases. And in that moment I looked and I thought, there goes my last excuse. So whatever challenges I've had, this guy's had it way, way, way worse than I have. It took me a few years. I wrote a business plan. I started playing shows. I recorded my first album. And I'm proud to say that about a year and a half ago, I was able to leave my desk job and do what I love full-time for a living. And that's exactly what this song is about. Following those passions, find the results that you want out of your life. So this one goes out to the man who paints with his mouth and listening to jams, and this one goes out to the kid on the street. Ain't got a mic but he's still spitting beats, and this one goes out to the actors on stage who barely get paid, and this one goes out to everyone who digs deep and lives for their dreams and lives life a little bigger and loves a little bigger. Live life a little bigger. Come on, dream a little bigger. My father worked hard when I was young, always out the door, trying to make the income up early, out late, working hard all week. He'd known poverty and wanted better for me. Better for me than what he had for himself. Kept a roof overhead and kept food in our mouths. Well, I didn't know then what I do today, but he worked so hard so I can live this way and live my life a little bigger. And love a little bigger. Live life a little bigger. We'll dream just a little bigger. Said there's no silver bullet, there's no golden prayer. It's hard work, it's love, and the choice to dare to live a little bigger than each day before. Spread some love, that's what you're here for. It's hard to pay others if you're living with peace. If you're focused on fear, you can't live out your dreams. Well, I don't know your passions, I don't know your needs, but if you're feeling the song and sing along with me and live your life a little bigger. And love a little bigger. Live life a little bigger. Come on, dream a little bigger. Sometimes the fears get the best, like a heart's gonna pound out your chest. When you face the truth and you're still you, it's when you got to press forward toward a new day. Your past is now a moment away. Your future's unwritten. What choice will you make with the tools you've been given? What path will you take to live life a little bigger? And love just a little bigger. Live life a little bigger. Come on, dream a little bigger. Live life a little bigger. Well, as I said, one of the things I love about being a musician is getting to be a storyteller. And this story continues tonight, because over the last 2.5 weeks, I've had the privilege of being here at Atlantic Center for the Arts and recording this here very song. And after we're done here this evening, we do have open studio, and there's 7 new songs that the artists over in the music studio would love for you to hear that we've got recordings of. And this is one of those 7 songs, so please come back over to the music studio after we're done here. Join us to hear a little bit of new music. And remember, live life a little bigger. Come on, love a little bigger. Live life a little bigger. Come on, dream a little bigger.
Actually, it's been really, really wonderful experience with my group. And thank you so much for Atlantic Center for the Arts. I really mean it. We had a great experience, and thank you for your really generous support. Anyway, our group is Tessa Brickman. She's a composer and musician. Beth Friedrich. Yeah. She's a painter, also she made the feed drawings, animation. And Diana Liew. She's a video artist, and she spent a lot of time to make these things happen. So I really appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate for everybody. Yeah. Without them, we couldn't do this. It was very cooperative. Next one is Joanna Mao. She's a choreographer, yeah. And then Damari McBride. Is a photographer, as you know. And Michelle Miller, A.M. Miller. She's a painter, also create 3-dimensional work, and she did the moon sun rising animation. And Molly Murphy. She's a painter, artist, also multimedia artist. She shoot part of video of my feet. So, you have any things to say? Yeah. Actually, when in the beginning, some of the people, we are the visual artists and musician and dancer, but to move their movement, there's just some hesitant. So it was not easy to pull everybody in, but I think we have a great time, right? Yeah.
Studios too, and then Sculpture Studio.
Everybody stay up here for a moment. I'd like to ask the rest of the artists in this residency and musicians to all come up and take a bow together, please. And then we have the visual artist studios are going to be open, so afterwards we're going to have a chance to look at all the studios. So all of you in this residency, please come up. guys have been so much fun and have really been exciting to have them all here for 3 weeks. But as I said, we'll have some refreshments for you. You can have a chance and opportunity to meet them and talk to them a little bit and visit their studios and see their other work. So please enjoy the rest of the evening.
Our visual is of the studio, just outside of our theater, so please.
Well, you can get back here, Morgan.
Yeah. I think that was amazing. Oh, thank you. Holy smokes.
It's crap. If this is crap, I don't think I can survive. Is it good? Yeah. So,
This is from the Stacy like the street, so I got it. Yeah. Enjoy it. Excellent. Oh, thank you. I could have played a little better. I did my best. I think I'm a lot better. Yeah, I don't think the mic was wrong. It was a little low. Yeah, well, no, we got to cover that mic. Yeah. He was talking about the displays. This is what we do. Displacing yeah, I know. It was all black and white this whole room. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
on YouTube. Oh, you. Oh.
That's me, I know. You're going to defy me, I know. You're going to work out.
Oh, yeah. It's YouTube. It's all YouTube.
I was asking if you did that song we did together, your friend's song. Oh, yeah. No, that's the saying that